Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Endless Growth Podcast.
Yeah, welcome back. Episode 150 today?
Yeah, brother. 150.
Alrighty.
We made it.
Yeah, we made it, and we actually have something special for you guys. We decided to have a guest. Welcome, Mohammad.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, bro. How's life? How's everything going?
Great. Just busy, working a lot. Never been on a podcast, so this is really cool. Never really talked in this format about what I do, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, yeah, that's hella cool, bro. I like when, I think most of the people we've had on the podcast, I think it's been their first time too. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I always feel like a little happy about that.
And it's a first for us having, somebody in your industry on our pod, too. So
That's
That's
a
awesome.
fact. That's a fact.
Well, thanks
So-
for having me, guys.
No, absolutely,
Yeah.
brother. Absolutely, brother. So yeah, let's get into it. We can start, with a little bit about what. So what do you do, Mohammed? Like, what's?
Yeah, so I'm a divorce attorney. I do other family law things too. I handle custody, adoptions, modifications, enforcement actions, things like that. So I just say divorce attorney or family law attorney to
Okay.
be recognizable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard that that term used a lot. Family, like attorney. Is that the same as like an estate attorney, or is that completely something different?
So it's a little bit different. You do have a lot of family law attorneys that deal with estates and trusts. It's because they kind of work together. So in a lot of divorces, we'll deal with trusts. We'll deal with those kind of matters. So some attorneys like our firm, we do estates and trusts. But me personally, I wouldn't consider myself an expert in that area. Yeah. So I would just stick to, my divorces and modifications and adoptions and those kind of things.
Okay. At what point did you know it's like, hey, let me dive into the divorce or marriage field, or whatever you want to call it? Like, why not, injury, or there's so many things you get into. Like,
Yeah.
why that one?
So it's actually a funny story. In law school, I used to always joke about family law and say, you will never catch me in family law.
Oh,
And I used to
wow.
tell my friends that, everybody that. And what ended up happening is after law school, I was just looking for jobs and trying to hit the ground running. And I started applying all over the country. I didn't really love the way the market was in Michigan. So I just started applying everywhere. I mean, Kansas, Texas, Utah, wherever. And I started getting a lot more feedback from Utah. And I was wondering why. And I was like, I've heard of this place. I've never been here. And they were all family law firms except for one. One was a med mal firm. So a couple of firms flew me out here and I had a great time. And I was like, Utah is beautiful. I'm an outdoorsy guy. So I ended up accepting a family law job. That's how I got into it.
Damn, bro.
wow.
I was like, let me give it a shot,
Yeah. And now
cool.
we're here.
Yeah, now
Yeah,
we're here.
You fit right in with Utah.
That's facts, bro. Yeah.
Utah's
100%.
perfect for, you're basically your hobby. You're being outdoors and
Outdoors,
all that.
hiking, camping,
Right.
hunting,
Yeah.
all that fun stuff.
All the good stuff.
Is there stuff like that in Michigan, or is that like a little different?
Yeah, so Michigan's actually, I think it's the second largest state for deer hunting. So
Wow.
there's just a ton of deer over there. There are some elk, but it's like a lifetime draw kind of thing.
Got you.
But deer hunting is crazy in Michigan. There's good bear hunting. There's a lot of that stuff, but the winters are really, really long, and there's not a ton to do in the winters, especially in like southeast Michigan.
Mhm.
You'd have to drive 5-6 hours north maybe to do some skiing,
Wow.
do some good skiing. There's some good resorts up there.
Okay.
Now that I've skied in both Michigan and Utah, I can kind of compare them, and I honestly am very impressed with Michigan skiing. They got some really good resorts.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to check that out then.
Does Utah live up to its tale, the greatest snow on earth?
That's a great.
You know what? Since I've been here, since
Or-
2024, it's been a little disappointing.
He's like, nah.
But
Scratch that off the plates.
when I visited in 2024, one of the firms took me out skiing with the farm, and that was a great powder day. It was just crazy. I mean, it was really the best snow I've ever seen in terms of skiing and whatnot. I'm not a big skier. I just got into it. When I moved to Utah, I actually got a little bit more serious about skiing,
Hell yeah.
trying to get better. So over the last year, I've gotten a lot better. But I would say the snow is great, but I hope that like heavy snowfall returns,
For real.
There's not too much else to do in the winter. So,
You're right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a weird winter for sure.
Yeah, freaking. I can't even tell you how many times it's snowed this season so far. Some of the ones I don't even know if you want to count, but yeah,
I've been 4, man. I think
just 4 so
4
far.
days?
Probably.
I feel like, that's the only time I've only seen like snow on the ground here at my shop like 4 times, where I've had to like plow or shovel some snow. It's kind of crazy, pretty sad.
Yeah. It's surprising too with the elevation. You'd think like the base elevation here would draw a bunch of snow on its own, but
Yeah,
guess not.
it's a hit and a miss. Some years. Well, we'll see. But
Yeah.
no, I'm curious about so this attorney thing. When like I obviously like I've kind of met you after, so like I want to know a little bit maybe more about what kind of got you to that point. Like what made you decide, hey, let's go into law? Why
Yeah.
not, be an engineer or honestly, there's so many things you can do out nowadays. You
Yeah.
can become a YouTuber, a TikToker, a streamer.
Yeah.
So why law, brother?
That's true. For me, way back in the day when I was a kid, I would always say I want to be an inventor, right? I would
Oh,
invent new things out of cardboard, tape, the typical things as a kid. And then that turned into I want to be an engineer. I want to work on things hands on. And I really have a good science engineering mind, I would say. I was never the best in math, but I was really good in all the science classes. And so I always joke around and say if it wasn't law, I might have been like a scientist or something. But what brought me into law is just knowing and seeing a lot of attorneys through my whole life, really good ones, really bad ones. And I think even growing up, I kind of realized the really good ones are very far and few between. And that still stands true today, I would say, in most fields. I mean, there's a handful of people in any given market, I would say, that are at the top of their game in any kind of like legal field or profession. So seeing a lot of the ones that didn't live up to the standard that I think the industry should be at,
okay.
I just figured I was like, I want to get in here and really just climb as far up as I can. And obviously there's a factor of making my family proud, making, myself proud and proving something to myself and people that I know. And then on top of that, when I was analyzing during undergrad, I would say maybe like, okay, what field can I really help the most people in? And there's tons. Like you can go help, obviously, medical field, and engineers are super important. And, they've made this country as great as it is, probably to a large degree. But for me, what's the field that I can go into where people can give me a call and I can immediately help them? And that's kind of what drew me into law is like if my family is going through something, my friends are going through something, someone I care about, they call me, how can I help them like right away? If I was an engineer, not sure, maybe financial help or something. If I was a doctor, I'd probably be closed into a hospital, or something along those lines, not in the public eye or being able to maybe make some phone calls and, handle things through the court for people that I care about. And so that's what kind of drew me to this field specifically.
No, yeah, no, I appreciate that. And yeah, you've actually let me know multiple times where, hey, if you ever get into, some issues, even if it's not, marriage or whatever law, he's in specifically, he's like, hit me up. Like, I know the good ones and, from the bad ones. So, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna hit him up if I need him.
Absolutely.
Hopefully
man.
I don't, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the tough part is like when you're not in law,
Mhm.
there's not too many things or resources you can use to really like differentiate who's the good ones, who are the bad ones. And so it's kind of tough, I mean, what are you going to do? Look at where they went to law school? Most of the times that doesn't matter. If someone went to an Ivy League school and someone went to a very low-end law school, but the low-end law school person's a highly renowned litigator in your area, and the person who went to the Ivy League school is not doing much, that's what you see online though. You'd see, Stanford, Harvard. You don't really see all the, hey, this person's done 100 trials and they've won 70 of them. You know what I mean?
Got you.
So.
Got you. Okay. So that's.
Speaking of school, how long was this, or what's the process to, get into all this?
Yeah. So I think you can do it as quick as you want. Like I'm sure we all know people that kind of did undergrad in like 2-3 years. I think it's a little extreme. They probably grinded.
Yeah.
I did undergrad in 4 years, just the typical 4 years, graduated. And then during my third year, I started studying for, I believe, the LSAT. And that's the test that gets you into law school. So if you have like...
It's like the super hard one, right?
No, I wouldn't say... It's not as hard as the bar.
Oh, the bar. Okay, okay.
I would say the bar is a beast. It was, yeah, we'll get into that too for sure. Yeah. But LSAT was just... Okay. It was like a 4-part test. Some things had nothing to do with law. It was like logic tests and things like that. It's just testing your ability to analyze different types of things. Like some are mathematical because logic in itself kind of has some mathematics involved in it. Yeah. Just testing your brain, like how are you wired? Are you able to handle this? I personally don't think it's a good test to determine like, are you going to be a good attorney? Because some of the people that I know that are the best attorneys, they had some of the lowest scores on the LSAT. But it's just like one of those barriers, it's like the SAT, ACT. Doesn't necessarily tell you who's going to be the valedictorian in undergrad, right?
Exactly.
So
okay.
And then from there, law school was 3 years. You could finish it quicker. The people who do,
I feel bad for them.
I think they're incredible people. I think they're just wired differently because I barely finished in 3 years. I mean, I thought law school was really tough, and I can't really say that I gave it my 100%, but I tried as hard as I felt like I could with the time. I mean, I am someone who doesn't like to sit there and study for like 20 hours straight. So I was more of a, study for a couple hours, get distracted. You know what I mean? One of those things. So for me, it's 7 years of higher education, and then the bar exam in itself kind of adds on like another half year or so.
Dang.
So you sit there for 3.5 months if you want to do it right away, and there's only 2 bar exams per year. So you graduate, you get to celebrate maybe for 2 days, and you got to hit the ground running bar prepping because you're not going to finish if you don't.
Wow.
Yeah. So then you get your results back and get licensed, and all that. It can take like another 6 months, sometimes a year if you have other issues in the application process.
I did not know it was like that.
Yeah.
Just twice a year?
Yeah, twice a year. So I saw some people at the bar exam. I mean, some people that I talked to, they were like, yeah, this is my 10th time taking it.
Wow.
So if you think about it, that's 5 years of them just trying to pass the bar. Yeah.
Wow.
So I feel very fortunate that, I'm not going to say I was a high scorer on the bar, but nobody cares about your bar score after.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
Damn, brother. Okay. No, that's very interesting. Okay. So we got there. So basically, it's starting to sound like family loss almost kind of chose you in a sense a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though you at first kind of didn't want to go into that. What did you think you were going to go into? Like, what did you originally have planned?
Yeah, that's funny. I thought I was going to be this like big shot corporate lawyer,
Okay.
like dealing with big corporations and in these important meetings and the high
boards.
rises, with the boards and all that. That's what I envisioned myself being in initially. And then when I actually got into this field and I started realizing the difference between not even just family lawyers, I mean, anyone that litigates cases versus what I had imagined, like maybe in-house counsel somewhere, you're like the go-to attorney in the company. You definitely have influence. You definitely do important work, but you're not going to see the courtroom, maybe ever. So as a litigator on the ground, I see all these little firms and I think of them instantly as like they're boots on the ground. They're the men and women that go into court on a weekly basis and fight for real people most of the time, unless they're representing companies nearby or whatnot. But those big corporations, when they have attorneys, I mean, their clients are behemoths. They got the big clients. They're not really in court. If the company's going to war against another company, they hire a big litigation firm to handle that. So the in-house lawyers are just kind of trying to prevent those fires. So then once I realized that, I mean, and along with like some of those big law firms, another thing I kind of envisioned myself being was an attorney who makes a lot of money at a big law firm. So I could say, hey, I'm a big law associate. I work at big law. And one of the things there is a lot of the times they won't let you have your own caseload for a long time. You can't run your own cases. You might not have enough knowledge to, or you might be working under partners for a long time. You might not see the face of a courtroom depending on, what kind of field you get into. So once I realized all those things, I mean, in the last 2 years, I ended up turning down like 5 big law offers.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Very high paying jobs, but I was just like, I think I can make it bigger here and make a bigger impact. And that's why I stayed at the smaller firms.
I love that.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. So do you love, I think I have maybe a sort of an inclination, but do you like what part of the job attracts you more? Is it being in court? Is it, I don't know if this would be the correct word, but like arguing on behalf of your client? Do you like more of like the prep? Like what part of the job do you like the most?
Yeah, I'll say I kind of relate things a lot back to football because growing up I loved football and I always looked up to football players in the NFL.
Okay.
So I feel like the prep is all the practices you would do. And then, court is like your game day. So your client doesn't see you advocate for them until you get into court. When you get into court, however passionately you're fighting for them and however, intelligently you're putting forth their positions and you got to put some emotion in there too because, they've gone through a lot. You want to express to the court essentially what they would want to express to the court, but then you mix in the law and everything like that. So my favorite parts, I would say, definitely are the game days.
Yeah.
I really enjoy court because if I've prepped for a case for a whole year, finally it's game day. Hey, it's time to put all that work to the test and I'm competing. So I'm a competitive person. I've always played sports. I love competing, but then the aspect that really makes it special is when you win or when you get a fair outcome for your client. Sometimes it's not like a glorious win, but it's a fair outcome and the client's life changes. You really set them up for a life that they were dreaming for over the last year, right? And so the emotional aspect of connecting with people on that level. You're helping their children, you're helping them, maybe extended family tagged onto that. And so the people aspect of it probably is my number one reason I'm in family law, is I love being face to face with people. So obviously I enjoy everything from the consultation all the way to trial. And obviously you can't bill for consultation. At least at most firms, we don't charge for consults. So you'll meet with someone for an hour, you really get to know them, and during that time, I think that really sets the tone. Like, you really tell them, are you going to advocate for them in like a zealous way where they're going to really feel protected, or are you just one of those people that's like, hey, pay your retainer, I'll kind of stay on top of things, I'll file what I need to, and we'll eventually get into court, or maybe we'll settle things beforehand because I don't want to go to trial. And that's how a lot of the lawyers are. So I think,
okay.
yeah, I think if you're going to go to a firm or a lawyer, like, you got to make sure that they're really going to advocate for you. So the people aspect and actually getting into court, I won't lie, the prep for all of it, probably not my favorite part, but it's literally the most important thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so important, but it just takes so long, and you really have to lock in and make sure you know every fact, and you can apply the laws, and then you can verbalize those in court, because obviously you'll have your opportunities to put everything in writing before the court. But judges are human. I mean, they're going to skim through that and be like, oh yeah, I'll read through this. I mean, I don't know, but this is what I assume, right? And they want to see you get in there and actually orally argue it and see who has a better presence in court and who puts their position forth best. So I think doing that, and then hearing from a client afterwards, like, I couldn't have done that better myself, even though it was all in my mind, but the way you put it out there meant a lot to me. And that's the special part about all of it.
Yeah, sounds really fulfilling. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, okay. Well, yeah, how long have you been actually, like, in the, the trenches, you would call them? Like, how long has it been?
Well, in actually litigating, I've probably only been in it for a little over a year and a half.
Okay.
Coming up on 2 years in May. So it hasn't been a ton of time, but I've been very fortunate to have just a great track record in that time period, and great mentors. I have to give it up to them. I mean, I've had incredible, just a big group of mentors that have taught me so much, and they live all over the country. Some of them are here. My the owner of my law firm currently. All these people have taught me so many different aspects of litigation, where I feel like when I piece them all together, I don't feel like a 2-year attorney. I feel like a 10-year attorney. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you get that confidence when you get that
backup.
So.
Right.
Okay. No, beautiful. Well, one of the things you mentioned is, there's a lot of lawyers that, might not be the best. So my sort of question is, for a regular person like me and Edgar, when, let's say, well, now obviously we'd reach out to you, but let's say for a regular person doesn't have a connect to you, how, or what are maybe some signs to look out for? Like, hey, this might be a good attorney versus maybe a not so good one. Like, maybe Google reviews, but I know some of those are bought sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like, any sort of insight on what you can say there?
Yeah, I think it's really tough, obviously, for someone who has no idea what they're looking for. There's not a ton of signs online.
Yeah.
Like you said, Google reviews, they can tell you something. But the thing is, obviously it's heavily encouraged to leave a good review. And most of the times your clients that are ecstatic, they're like, oh, you got me everything I wanted. You deserve 5 stars, right? Most of the people that think you're, mediocre or not really happy, they won't really go and publicly shame you by leaving a 1-star review. It's only the ones who are extremely upset. You've treated them really bad. You've robbed them of their money, or you didn't fight for them or advocate for them, that'll go do that. So I wouldn't personally use reviews, but it's a good initial step. So I'd say maybe start with it. See, like, okay, if the firm has 2.9 star reviews, big red flag, because that means that even their good clients, they can't even bribe them. Like, hey, I'll give you a discount if you leave a 5-star review, right? So yeah, maybe that's the first step. But if all of them you're looking at are 4.9, 4.8, 5, it's a decent first sign, but moving to the next step would be to actually talk to the attorneys. So set up a consultation. Don't feel pressured to sign up right away. Some firms are very sales oriented, so they will have you sit down and be like, hey, this is extremely urgent. Build urgency, right? It's transferable skills across all the sales fields. Yeah. So lawyers are salesmen too, I mean, to a certain degree. Some firms will be like, this is an extremely urgent matter. You're going to want to move on this within the next 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks. We got to get started. I mean, you should just go pay right now so I can get started right now.
Damn.
Don't fall into that pressure.
Okay.
The good firms that are really confident in themselves, I'll be honest, from what I've learned, is they're a little bit on a backlog. If there's a little bit of a wait list, it's a huge green flag, in my opinion, because that tells you people are lining up to get any one of the attorneys, maybe not even a single one. And then on top of that, people are willing to wait, even though their matter might be urgent, right? So that's a huge green flag if you don't have connections. Secondly, while you're in the consultation with any of the attorneys, you should ask them questions. You should let them ramble off as well. So have a good balance. Let them talk to you. Get a good feel for if are you interested in what they're saying? I mean, are they able to pull you in? Are they able to lead you into battle, right? Quote unquote. Like, do they motivate you? Do they tell you, I'm going to fight for you? I can't guarantee an outcome, but I'm going to fight for you super hard. I'm going to work day and night to make sure I get you what you want. And if they really come across as like captivating, they pull you in, you're interested in what they're saying, it's probably a good, a green flag, because if they can do that to you, they can probably do that to opposing counsel. They can probably do that to a mediator. They can probably do that to the judge. Now, if you're sitting there and you're having a rough time having a conversation with an attorney, a big red flag, I would probably just go somewhere else. Or try another attorney in the firm, because if they're having a tough time having a basic conversation with you or laying out the game plan of your case, you can just imagine how they're going to be in court. They're going to show up in front of a judge, be confused, not be able to piece things together for everyone, not be able to like advocate for you with some passion. There's a lot of monotone attorneys out there. If you run into a monotone attorney, I mean, if they're having a bad day, you got to cut them a break.
Yeah.
But aside from that, they should be passionate when they meet with you. They should care about you. You should have that human connection when you talk to them. And then other than that, if you can, or if you know other attorneys in the area, maybe ask around and say, hey, do you know this person? Do you know their law firm? Because they might not know the person, but they might say, hey, the law firm trains them really well. They have great support staff. The way they treat people is incredible. That'd be a green flag too. And that way, even if you didn't know the attorney, you feel comfortable signing up with them because the firm has a standard.
No, wow.
So that's probably what I would do.
I had my little experience with an attorney when I got that little ticket. And,
yeah.
But it was one of those, like exactly how you're saying, like he was one of those people that didn't really, well, to begin with, when you need an attorney, you don't know anyone. It's like the most overwhelming thing to do, because it's just like you never had to go into this industry for anything, even like, it's not like getting your car fixed. Like, you can, I guess for me, that's more something I know, but doing this, same thing as you, did some Google reviews, checking. I think I got the number from some attorney from just like some guy that I knew, and I just went with it. It took me forever to get him to answer. And then even then, like you said, he was kind of more just like, yeah, we'll see what we can do. But I mean, not knowing like what you're supposed to know, you're just kind of like, I guess this is how it is. But having your input on what it should be like, it's way different, because I would have not gone with that guy if I would have known that's how it should be.
Yeah.
But he ended up taking care of something, but it was just one of those laid back guys that it was when COVID-19 was a thing. So everything was over Zoom call.
Yeah.
Had his dog in the room with me right there, like just sitting on the chair next to me, and I'm just like, what the heck? Yeah. It's a different experience, but man, it does, it feels good knowing at least now someone I can go to if I need something. So
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd be happy to connect you with anyone in my network. I feel like the people I keep close to me, I try to keep a high standard with them too, because I wouldn't want to send my friends or anyone to someone who it would make me look bad too, right? If I referred you to someone and they didn't take care of your situation, they didn't treat you well like a human, they didn't advocate for you. I always use the word zealous, just passionately, really fiercely advocate for you. I'd be embarrassed because that person would then connect the dots back to me, right?
yeah.
So, but I'm glad they took care of your situation. At least.
For what they could, right? I mean, it sounds like he was one of those that was, and it kind of made sense now that we were talking about all this stuff. When he was explaining the things, he kind of was just nonchalant, just like, yeah, we'll do this. Yeah, whatever. Like, and he did, it seems like he probably dealt with this a lot. It was basically, it was a speeding ticket in a way, but they tacked on a bunch of other stuff. And I guess he's probably dealt with a lot of these, so he felt really confident in what he was going to do. So he kind of just like, I already know what it's going to be like. But even then, that transferred to me as like, do you even care about what's going on? But but going forward, I think we should be good.
Yeah. Well, we're in good hands now, bro.
Yeah,
like Allstate.
We can say you'll be hearing from my attorney, from my lawyer.
I've seen those memes that say that's the only reason I went to law school is so my friends and family can say you'll hear from my attorney.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, let's dive into more about what you do specifically. So, in terms of marriage, you've been in the in the marriage field for some time now. Has it changed how you view marriage, the concept of marriage overall, like since your time in the field?
Yeah, it has. I mean, I can't lie about that.
Okay.
I used to think everything was positive, good about marriage, that two people trust each other and they stay together no matter what, right? Any kind of hardships, they got to figure it out together. That's how the older generation generally did it, right? Or when you hear about like the old generation, that's
Yeah.
how it was. And then if you do it through religious, means too, it's like all your vows and your beliefs are aligned or similar, and then you take some vows that mean a lot to you. I've noticed that people don't take it that seriously anymore. You know, I mean, in some cases, it's tough. I understand why people leave. I mean, if there's serious domestic violence or anything along those lines, I'm like, okay, I totally get this. You got to get out of this situation. Maybe even like financial abuse, right? You're just being like held captive almost. I mean, there's some cases like that. But other than that, I think that a lot of the times people don't view marriage as, and this sounds so like dehumanizing, but a marriage contract is kind of like a business transaction. And
Okay.
people don't view it that way. And that's probably why people think divorce lawyers are bloodsuckers. You know what I mean? People don't view us in the best light most of the time.
Yeah.
But it's because we've seen all the worst in people and we see what can happen, not only emotionally, but financially, to your businesses, to even your trusts. Like if you think things are protected fully in your trusts, not necessarily. We can dive into that deeper if you guys want. But it's not just about the love, and it should be only really about the children, but most of the times it's not. It always comes back to money. So when I think about it, I'm like, when people are getting married, I used to think jump right into it, trust each other blindly or whatever it may be, and just stick it out, right? Do the whole thing together. But what I've realized now in today's world, you have to take some precautions. You have to set some boundaries in place, and not just like verbal boundaries like, hey, I'm going to do this and you're going to do that. Those things don't work.
Hmm.
When things are good, I suggest people set up prenups, and they don't have to be one-sided as people think they are. Whenever you say that word, everyone flips out, or
Yep.
some people flip out. It's not like that. I mean, it's really an accountability factor, and setting things up in a way where it works for you too when you're in a good headspace, not when you're fighting about custody and all that other stuff later, right? Um, it's one of those things where if you don't sign a prenup, what you're essentially doing is you're getting into a contract with the government.
Mm.
Most people don't realize that. You're signing a blank contract with the government. You think it's going to apply to the rules and the laws that are in place today. It's not. The rules and the laws that are in place at the time of your divorce are what governs your divorce. So you're signing a blank contract that essentially says at the top, like, I, the government, reserves the right to change this contract at any time. But you sign today. That's all it says. Blank contract. Sign it. We'll figure it out later.
Damn.
So it's kind of, you're letting them, get their paws on your whole life at any point in time. Why not sit down, come up with a fair agreement that works for both of you? What most people think is, you sit down and you're like, hey, prenup, okay, I get everything, you get nothing,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Because I'm working and you're taking care of the home or whatever it is. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You can really take care of the other person in that prenup too. And now you both know exactly what's going to happen. Maybe you can take away some things that would be a reward for one party potentially, and make it equal, make it fair, however you want to work it out. But you two make the rules. It's your life, right? It's your lives. So why let the government govern it? And that's the main thing that has changed about my view on marriage. I still think marriage is very important. I think it's in place for a reason, whether it's from the religions or from the government. It really does protect at least one of the parties from really getting screwed over. I still think marriage is very important, but I think people need to approach it a little bit differently in the modern day. And I don't mean the dehumanizing, it's a business transaction, but that is a component of marriage, and I think people need to view it a little bit more in that lens.
Mm.
So,
Okay. Perfect. No, I've always heard the prenups. Not sure. Obviously, it sounds like, hey, I want everything. I'm not going to give you anything. But now that you've explained, hey, it's a government with, or it's a contract with the government. It's like, yo, why would I want that? Let's say it, if I'm going to enter a marriage with, like a wife or something, let's set it on our terms. If this happens, 50-50, like it doesn't matter. But what are maybe some horror stories that you've seen in your field where like, hey, we didn't have a prenup, now the government, it's up to the government? Like what sort of what can, what can happen if you don't have a prenup, basically?
Yeah, it's tough, man. I've seen all of the extremes on all
Dang.
sides. So it's funny enough, right when you said 50-50, my thought immediately went to this one case where it wasn't 50-50. It wasn't even 50-50. So let's say party A and party B, they both worked their whole lives. One party worked harder than the other one. They made about the same money. They had about the same opportunity to pursue a 401k. They were loading them up differently. So party A was maximizing their contributions to their 401k their whole life, 30-year marriage, okay?
Wow.
Party B was blowing money on other stuff and contributing minimally, okay? And then what ended up happening in the divorce is that party A ended up making a little bit more money throughout the marriage or throughout the second half of the marriage. Party B made a little bit less and then, stopped working. And we believe it was voluntary, but that was that issue. And what ended up happening at the end is not only did they have to split everything 50-50 asset-wise, they actually had to equalize everything in their marital estate. So it was, the retirement, the home had to be sold, split in 50-50. All the bank accounts had to be split 50-50. But there's a catch. It's not 50-50. The party that made more money also had to pay out alimony.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's not 50-50. I mean, it ended up being like, you can call it 60-40. This wasn't the most extreme case. I thought it was a little unfair. There was even evidence in the case that the party A would regularly tell party B, hey, you need to max out your contributions. What are we going to do when we're 65? And now they're sitting there at 60 or 62 or whatever it was. And there's a 60-40 split against the one that worked a little harder.
Dang, that's actually kind of sad.
So it was mainly sad. It didn't ruin their lives. They had
Yeah.
plenty of money to go off and live their lives, but it's just kind of unfair because it did impact the ability to retire quicker. Right?
Yep.
So now they had to probably keep working. And then the other extreme is, oh my goodness, yeah, the real extreme on the other side is that let's do party A and party B again. Party A, they got married. They didn't have any prenup, nothing in place. They were married for, 5 or 8 years. And, when the divorce was initiated, there was many other attorneys on the case. And then, attorneys got off for whatever reason. I'm not sure. Maybe they couldn't pay or whatever. Attorneys were on and off, on and off. And when that happens, you don't have one solid strategic game plan on each side, right? You got all these attorneys coming in with different game plans, maybe messing things up, muddling things, like things are just getting confused. And then I get on the case for party A, and party B at that time can't afford an attorney, right? And I'm just going to say this is a hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
Party B can't afford an attorney, right? We go all the way to trial, and I set up the entire case as perfectly as I could, procedurally, persuasively, whatever you want to call it. And party A got essentially almost everything from the marital estate.
Dang.
And that's a little bit of where the injustice comes into place. Not everybody can afford an attorney when you get a good one and the other side can't have one. If there was a prenup in place, she might have been a little bit better protected, right? And it can be either way, he, she, whoever it is, right? If there's no prenup in place, whatever ends up happening at the end, there can be some injustice that takes place. I don't love to see that, but at the end of the day, I got to do my job. If I'm hired for something, I'm going to do my best at it. But there are extremes on all sides. Now, if both of these parties, had prenups and they were fair, and they were actually, let's just call it 50-50, we would really have nothing to argue over. It'd just be like, hey, all right, let's put all the numbers on the table, disclose everything, let's chop it right in half. Both of you walk your own way,
Okay.
But it actually ended up being unfair in both of these cases to not have a prenup. And you can imagine, I hope people hear this and say, wow, I don't view prenups in such a negative light anymore. It can actually protect me and the other person. So
Yeah. Be on the terms when we were in love and everything was working out.
Yeah.
Like that way. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. Okay.
Yeah.
And I barely actually figured out what alimony was about like a year or two ago, and I was like, that's the thing?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a whole different beast right there.
It's tough, man. And in the state of Utah, it can last up until the length of the marriage. So
Wow.
if it's 30 years, you have an opportunity to argue or to settle up to 30 years of alimony. I mean, imagine if you were making tons of money and the other person was, I'm sure, doing something productive, maybe raising the kids or taking care of the home, or maybe they're disabled and they can't work.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, if you two split up, you might be paying them out a ton of money every month. I mean, I've seen alimony amounts up to 4 or 5 grand a month for 30 years. That's like
Damn.
1.4 million or some crazy number like that. Just think
Yeah.
about that, right? Like,
I know somebody that was paying 10,000 a month
yeah.
for years. Is there like a certain time limit with like you get married? Let's say you have to be 5 years married or 1 year married for that whole alimony to kick in, or is it just as soon as you guys sign, that's technically if you're taking your partner out of their job or something, then you're kind of required to pay your alimony.
Yeah, so the shorter the marriage is, the tougher it is, because the court's going to view it as, how are you sustaining yourself before? And it was only 1 year ago. Let's just say 1 year. Why aren't you able to go get that same job again and sustain yourself? So what I view it as, it's totally on the table, legally speaking. I mean, you can go in and argue. I would, if I had a client that was in a position where we could ask for it, even if it was a 1, 3, 4 year marriage. When you start to cross that, like, 4 or 5 years and above, now it starts to become a little bit more serious. Now it's like, okay, this person, if you were dependent on the other person, you had a need, they were providing everything, you might actually be able to show a legitimate need for support. But then again, you can only do it to the maximum, right? Mm-hmm. The number of years you were married. But there's a lot of factors. I mean, I won't lie, I don't have them all memorized. There's probably like 10 to 20 factors or whatever. But though you do have to prove the one party has an ability to pay. So if you're making 500 grand, a year, and the other person's a stay-at-home parent or whatnot, obviously you're probably going to be able to show an ability to pay. The other person has to prove a need. So they have to prove that, hey, my expenses are here, my income's down here, whether it be minimum wage or 20 an hour or whatever it may be. You have to show that, like that difference in ability to sustain yourself. And then the courts look back at how your lifestyle was during the marriage. And you're kind of, I don't agree with this fully, but this is how the law is written. The courts do look back and consider what your lifestyle was like. Were you guys going on vacations every month or once a year? Were you living in a very nice house? Were you driving, an Audi, or were you driving a Toyota? Right? Like things like that. And they consider those things. Now, you can't come in and you guys had like bare bones minimum lifestyle, and then you say, well, now I want a luxury car and all this stuff. Yeah. It's not a good argument. It's not going to work.
Wow. Okay. So lifestyle impacts that a lot then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, let's maybe run over the cost. So a divorce with a prenup versus without it. I'm assuming the prenup is way cheaper, or let me know.
It can depend. So I want to get into a second topic after this, if you guys are okay with it.
Yeah, of course.
At first, what I would say is prenup's probably a lot cheaper, because if it's a bulletproof prenup, and I mean like both parties had attorneys at the time, competent counsel, the agreement was fair, it's hard to break it up now. It's really hard to break it up at the time of divorce. An attorney can go in and try to break it up at the time of divorce. It's really tough. You'd have to show things like duress. Okay. Right? Like one of the things is like don't go to your spouse the day before your wedding and say, hey, you got to sign this or I'm calling it off. Damn. Right? You can go back 20 years later and say that was signed under duress.
Wow.
And we can maybe challenge it and try to throw it out. But if it was like a solid, you guys did it 2 years before you were married, you both had counsel, it's a very fair agreement when you look at it. Just the plain language, there's no trickery involved, nothing like that, no misrepresentations. Then it would probably be a lot cheaper, because if both sides hired attorneys and we're both looking at the same agreement, we're like, this is really fair. It's pretty much goes along with the laws too. It's close to what might happen in court. Both had attorneys. There's no duress. There's no misrepresentation. There's no other like contractual issues with it. But we might call each other and just say, look, this is pretty solid. Let's just enforce this. Let's just do it the right way. Make sure everything's disclosed, and make sure we actually divide it up the way the prenup is set up, and then do it that way. But without a prenup, so let's just talk rough costs. I mean, if the prenup's in place and both parties are like, oh, okay, let's just enforce this. Let's have attorneys look at everything and then just execute the prenup. It might cost you $3,000. It might cost you $5,000. Not a ton of money. Okay. Without a prenup, the average divorce, I mean, I don't want to quote an exact number. Yeah. I think it's somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000. Damn. And I think, actually, in my opinion, that can be kind of cheap. That's if you guys maybe aren't fighting over every single issue. If you're fighting over one issue, price goes up. If you're fighting over 2-3 issues, man, might be 40, 50 grand, 100 grand. Wow. It gets expensive. Now, the second topic, I just want to touch over briefly. If you guys want to
Let's
dive
do it.
deeper, I
Let's
think
do
it'd
it.
be fun. Prenups. I have personally never dealt with a case that had a prenup in place.
Wow.
Now, I'm
Wow.
not going to draw any conclusions.
Yeah.
But in my anecdotal experience, it seems to be the case that maybe, and just maybe, the people that are mature enough, maybe, or intelligent enough to whatever it may be to sign a prenup maybe have the ability to work through issues in a marriage. I'm not sure. Or they don't need attorneys at the time of divorce. Whatever the case is, I've talked to so many attorneys about this, people that have been practicing for 15, 20, 30 years. I said, how many prenups have you dealt with? They can count them on their hand. 1, 2, 3, maybe two. And so I don't know. From my anecdotal experience, that suggests to me that people that sign prenups are maybe mature enough to also work through the issues that marriage throws at you.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably my best guess. I haven't seen or heard about many divorces with prenups. So I think that's really interesting.
No,
Oh
it really
yeah, it
is.
sounds like if you want to have a great marriage, get a prenup. That's what it
Yeah.
sounds like stat wise. I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people probably don't know about them, like you're saying, or they have like the misconception about what they really are, and then they don't even want to have that conversation with their
Yeah.
partner. I think that's the biggest thing I'd feel like, because you guys are essentially thinking of the worst is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And essentially you're trying to tell each other it's not going to happen,
Yeah.
but if
Why are
it
you
does,
thinking that way?
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I feel like I could see why people probably would avoid the conversation if they even knew what prenups were, but
Yeah.
now seeing what more it can like save money wise and time and all that, I feel like it might just be good just to have it in place if
It's just like Mohammad just mentioned. It's like I feel like you went into the marriage prepared. You maybe had conversations how it was gonna go. It's more planned out. So without the plan, I feel like you're almost kind of
yeah.
screwed in a way because it's
Yeah.
like if this happens, what are we doing? We don't know. And then emotions get in the way, all that. But when I would hopefully assume logically thinking with the other person before all that happens. You kind of just resort. It's there. It's in writing. Both of you guys signed it. It's
Almost
it's a
like
contract.
I feel like a good way to go into it with your partner is like assuming one or the other was to pass away. And like, hey, if I was to pass away tomorrow, this is how it's gonna go. My family will get this, and your family will or you'll get that. But if you think about it, like, hey, man, when we or not man, but
Yeah. Pause.
hey, we don't know. Everybody got their own thing out there now.
That's
but
true. That's true.
Yeah.
it's like, hey, if we break up, you're getting that, I'm getting this. I feel like that's gonna just definitely clash some stuff. But I don't know.
You draw a very interesting parallel. I've never thought about it in that way. You can kind of compare it to a will. I feel like that's kind of where you were going, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. And so if I was writing up a will right now and my family or my friends or everyone got upset with me and said, why are you drawing up a will right now? Do you think you're going to die in the next 10 years? Are you planning on it? This is ridiculous. This is making us sad, right? It's making me sad. It's drawing up my emotions. It's like, but wait a minute, it's important. Because I might need it when I'm 65 or 70, but let me just get it done right now. Right.
Yeah.
And then update it later or whatever it is. And it's another component to it is you can update prenups whenever you want.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Can you? I don't think it would be called a prenup anymore, but can you get like a postnup?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
so
what it's called.
A postnuptial agreement. Yeah.
Oh, so you can still do that.
Yeah. So if you didn't have a prenup right away before the marriage, you can always do a postnuptial agreement. I do those sometimes for people that reconcile or whatnot, but they're like, hey, let's get something out of this process because we've paid a lot of money already. Let's get something going to just be in place so we don't have to go through this whole process again.
Oh,
yeah. So I've done
okay.
postnups like fresh when they didn't have any prenups, and then you can also do updates to the prenup that basically turns into a postnup, right? Doing it after your marriage, and you're saying, hey, assets have changed, goals have changed, whatever it might be. You might have said, you might have not even included a business in your prenup, and now there's like this business that's making a bunch of money. Maybe you want to include some provision about the business, or say that my business is mine free and clear, or something like that, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Typically, what are people having on these prenups? Is it more just protecting the assets? I'm assuming probably.
Yeah. So you have to be careful with prenups. You don't want to put things in place that the court's more likely to toss out later. You kind of want to keep it to, how do I say this? Like the actual like finances, the assets. You can put alimony provisions in there, but as soon as you start creeping over into factors where the court needs to see a lot of evidence to determine things like child custody, you start to kind of go over into like no man's land where it's not really good for your agreement. The more things you put in there that can potentially draw a court or an opposing counsel to want to attack the agreement, the weaker it gets. So if you were to say like, all right, if we break apart, I get sole custody. I pay no child support, right? Things like that. And then you turn out to be either an abuser or not a good influence to the kids, right? You've I don't know, introduced them to things that are inappropriate or whatever. The court's still going to go in and has a full ability to change that.
Okay.
So it just draws more doubt towards your agreement if you have things like that. Also, it might be seen as a little bit unfair. There's just so many factors that go into that. And if you say like no child support, for example, a lot of times the courts won't even sign final documents that say zero child support.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the way that the state views it is that money belongs to the child, not either parent.
Oh, okay.
So if we say, well, we don't care about child support, and the court's going to say it doesn't matter if you don't care about it, the children need it.
That's real.
So unless you balance it out in some other way and say, okay, my child support is I pay for everything of theirs, extracurricular activities, healthcare, whatever they may want, all those things. You can kind of balance it out, but you have to show the court that there's some support going strictly for the kids. So
okay, so that's good to know. You can't just be a deadbeat and be like, "Here, sign this," and I'm off the hook completely. That's still that sort of guardrail for the child, at least.
Yeah,
at least in Utah. Okay.
Yeah, if there's things that are just like unfair completely or relate to that kind of child custody, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, is just because child custody is so complicated. There's so many code sections that go over child custody. There's so many factors. There's tons of factors, right? All the kids' needs, from physical, emotional, medical, educational needs, all those things, they change over time. So it might be good at the time they get married. You might not even have kids at the time you get married, but post-nup, maybe everything's good. And then 10 years later, maybe party A has beat the children and maybe, exposed them to inappropriate content regularly or inappropriate people, and they're having people around. There's just so many factors, not taking them to school. Those things can just be tossed out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So people are pretty protected in that aspect. If they get swindled, maybe on child custody or child support, those things, in my opinion, can still be dealt with because they're still viewed from a different light than like finances.
Yeah. Do you ever see people that got in divorce and then on the next second marriage they do the prenup then? Or is that not really, you really don't see a whole lot of that stuff yet?
I don't see a ton of it yet. I always suggest to my clients that go through very nasty divorces, I tell them in a joking way, I'm like, hey, you're done with this now. You can get rid of me. You can get rid of, the other party to some degree, unless they have kids and they have to deal with each other. But you can get rid of me, get rid of all those expenses. But next time you plan to get into this, I always tell them, like, contact me. Let's just have a quick talk,
Yeah.
And they joke about it. But then I haven't heard back from any of them saying, hey, I'm about to get married. Let's get a prenup going.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I'm not sure if it's because they get into the same loop of the other person might say, I'm not comfortable with signing it again. They're like, I don't want to deal with it. Or maybe they're not getting remarried yet. There just could be a lot of factors in place. But
yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard that, like, I think half of first marriages end in divorce, and then like the second it's like 60% or something like that, and like third is like 80% or something like that. So
what's the shortest marriage you've seen?
The shortest I've seen. God, I think
like less than a year.
It's in Vegas, bro, like a weekend thing.
I think so.
Really?
I think I might have seen like a 1 year.
No way.
Maybe somewhere in that ballpark, 11 months to like a year and a half. I don't know. Those are just strange. They're really easy to deal with.
I feel like, it'd be a little easier because there's not a whole lot of, background there.
Yeah, it's easier to trace like the premarital assets, things like that. And usually those people, from my experience, I might have only had a handful of those. But from my experience, both parties are just like, let's just get this over with. We don't have too much. Alimony's not impossible, but nearly impossible. They don't have a ton of joint assets yet unless they bought a house. And if they bought a house in 1 year, it's probably breaking even or they're losing money after all the costs. So they just kind of agree to handle and deal with everything. Yeah. They don't really get too much into it. I still suggest that you do discovery. You try to get both parties to disclose everything fully, because sometimes that, people can hide stuff. I mean, a year is not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things, but what if during the marriage, one party went crazy with crypto? Right? Like, I don't know until I know. So I always suggest every single case. One of my mentors told me, He's like, how many cases? And he's like, how do you determine whether you should conduct discovery in a case or pursue more disclosures? And I go, maybe if it's a long-term marriage or what, this is when I was brand new. And I was like, maybe if it's like longer term, mid-range type marriage. And he just looked at me. He's like, no, every single divorce, every single case, you should pursue at least the basic disclosures, which are required, but then you should dig into them a little bit more. Maybe conduct a little bit of discovery. You don't have to get everything heated, in between the parties, but you can still pursue getting more information.
And what do you mean by discovery? Are you like hiring private investigators? Are you diving into like court documents? Are you looking at like what does that mean?
Yeah, it's a great question. You can use private investigators.
Okay.
A lot of times people use them for alimony. It's kind of funny just thinking about it. As kids, you're like private investigators, all these shows of like inspectors and stuff. But yeah, people hire those. Sometimes the most I've seen PIs be used was probably for trying to figure out if the other person's cohabitating with someone post decree. So like when a divorce has already been done.
Wow.
And then the law states that if you can, the cohabitation part, you have to prove, unless the other person just agrees to terminate alimony. But a remarriage automatically terminates alimony.
Wow. Okay.
So those are the two different things. So discovery can include things like a PI. If the other party's trying to hide that they're living with someone in a romantic relationship, you have a PI outside of their house for however long you feel is necessary to get pictures of them gardening together, of them, whatever, maybe getting in the same car, going to church every Sunday, things like that. But the more common discovery is you can send out like written discovery that asks a bunch of questions, demands like documents, statements, admissions under oath, and you can use those later at trial. Obviously, the other party has the ability to like lodge objections so that they don't waive their rights at trial. But you can gather more information, and it really helps you think, what else should I dig into? Do I need to dig into anything else? Things like that, based on whatever they send you. Are they being forthright? Or are they kind of hiding things and giving me like minimal answers? It's kind of suspicious, right?
Kind of get the vibe.
Yeah. And then there's a bunch of other components. Like I just got done doing like 4 depositions over the last couple of weeks. And that's basically where, as an attorney, it's your only opportunity, really, aside from court hearings or evidentiary hearings or trial, to talk to that other party directly in front of their attorney, too. So you can talk to them. You can have a conversation. You can throw 4 or 5 hours worth of questions out at them. They have to sit there and answer all of them.
This is in a court setting?
No, so it's outside of court.
Oh, okay. So is this where you usually hear, they settled it out of court? It's in the deposition, or is that... No, this is something else.
Yeah,
okay.
So deposition is like you feel like you're in court because there's a court reporter there, and the court reporter is like transcribing everything. You can do video ones too. I think you have to pay a little more for that, but there's a court reporter sitting there, and like if you're not speaking clearly or whatnot, they'll call you out and say, "Hey, I didn't get that last part. Repeat it." So everything is transcribed. You can use it as evidence later. You can bring it up at trial, but this is not a time for people to say. I mean, usually, like, hey, we're ready to settle. Unless it just goes horribly, maybe afterwards they're like, hey, that didn't go too well for us. Let's settle this case. But what you're talking about, depending on the field of law, it's either going to be like a mediation, arbitration, or something with a third party that's neutral, and they sit there and they try to, maybe gently push both sides to come to a resolution that's fair. And if you have a mediator or arbitrator that is experienced in that area, it helps a ton. Like some of the mediators I use are, they are former judges, former commissioners in family law, former attorneys, or even current attorneys in family law. So when you tell them, both sides are telling them their story, sometimes if it's obvious and one side's being unreasonable, they can say, hey, what would happen in court? You really want to battle this out for a year just to get to the same conclusion that you can get to today and save a bunch of money and headache? So it's one of those things. And discovery can also include a bunch of other things. Like you can send out subpoenas if they didn't disclose enough documents to you. You can send out subpoenas to get more documents from banks and from other entities. You can subpoena like experts, other witnesses. You can depose the other party's witnesses just to make sure you know what they're going to testify to if this goes to trial. It's a very
this is crazy complex.
Yeah, that's why it takes so long when you get attorneys involved.
Okay, so a subpoena that's a legal document that once you get that served, you have to fulfill, or is it? Yeah, that's what that is. Okay.
Yeah, so it can cause problems if you don't respond to it. Like if you get subpoenaed to court, I mean, you can call in and say, hey, like I'm sick or I'm at the hospital or I just can't make it. And most attorneys will be accommodating. They'll say, okay, that's fine. Can I at least get you to sign in on like WebEx or Zoom? Because then maybe I
Okay.
can file a motion for you to appear remotely. Um, if you don't like the fact that I'm trying to use you as a witness for my case, I probably don't want you to testify anyways, because you're probably going to be a little bit combative with me. I want you to be in a good mood. You know what I mean? Like when I subpoena officers, for example, if they call me back and they're really pissed off, I'm thinking twice about using them. I'm like, are they going to hate me if I force them to come to court?
Okay.
You know what I mean? But if they're really important, it doesn't matter. At that point, I'm like, I just need you to testify to whatever you did that day, whatever you saw, whatever you reported in your report. And then I'll, try to force them to come to court. But sometimes officers will call in and they'll say, I'm sick or whatever the case may be, and I'll just try to get them to appear remotely. I've done that at trials too, and they're usually pretty good though. They're usually pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah, same. This is, yeah, I'm like, dang, there's so many things that we're missing just because, yeah, you're obviously
I
in
can
it
see why you have to go to school for 7.
for a minute.
I will say though, just a precursor to that, I don't
Yeah.
think law school prepares you at all to be a lawyer.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I that was a harsh reality to learn. I was like, why did I just spend all that money? And yeah, it's important to a certain degree. I have my opinions. I think it should be maybe shorter or more like maybe the third year should be all like clinical experience where you work at a firm full time.
Yeah.
I think that should be the case because when you come out of law school, you basically don't know anything unless you've interned somewhere. Now you understand their process, but
I feel like a lot of industries are like that. I mean, schooling just they teach you a lot, right? But I feel like you never use that until
yeah.
I don't know. I went to automotive school. I mean, just very short, just a community college, and nothing I learned basically is something I would use in real life with mechanical stuff. And I mean, same thing with like the nursing programs. There's a lot of stuff in there that's very knowledgeable to learn and have, but it's different in the real world. The stuff you're dealing with, and in your case, same thing. Different cases, different things. You're only going to get that from just mentors or being in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I really think, and I might be wrong for saying this because I don't know, and this is just like a hypothetical, but I really genuinely think if I just went to undergrad, I think it's important to a certain degree to really expand your mind on things.
Yeah.
Just to be able to think and maybe write and like network with people. You just learn kind of skills like that. But I think after that, if law school was all an interactive thing where you like swapped around law firms and you did all the same kind of assignments, but in law firms in a setting where it's actually going to be used somewhere for a certain type of case, I think that might have been more effective. But they want you to have a well-rounded knowledge of a bunch of these different practice areas, and most of the times you'll never use them. And let's be fair, if I switch practice areas to something I took a class on in law school like next year or something, I'm not going to remember a single thing from law school. Maybe a handful of things. They're not going to help me practice in that area. I'm going to have to train with them again.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's true. Well, now that you mentioned that, do attorneys usually like I would assume they probably don't leave it completely like their field, but do they expand and complete maybe something like different? Let's say you master the field you're in. Let's say you want to go into, I don't know, intellectual property. Is that something that you can do, and is it common?
That's a great question. Obviously I think attorneys with 30 years plus experience probably have better insight. But in my opinion, I think that there's a clear distinction between like a generalist and a specialist. And I think that if you become a specialist in one practice area and then you switch into another one, and now you're dividing your time up, you start to lose some of those skills that you were a specialist in.
Okay.
I would compare it to maybe, a boxer starts splitting his time between soccer and boxing, and then he's still competing in both. I feel like his skill level would probably go down quite a bit, and he'd become average at both maybe. That's how I view it in law, is where when I see attorneys that say, I do personal injury, I do family law, I do, traffic tickets, I do, what else? Medical malpractice, I do general civil litigation. That's a huge practice area. To just say I do all of those, you're probably not going to be excellent at any of them. That's my guess. And, in my experience, the best attorneys that are the most successful, that, whatever success metric we're using, whether it's income or expertise or network or respect in the industry, from my anecdotal experience, I think are the ones that stay in one field for a very long time and they become the best at it. That's just my opinion. But yeah, some attorneys do that. Some attorneys will
Okay.
like jump, maybe for a little pay increase, or maybe jump because they're bored or they don't like their practice area or they had a bad experience in it. And I just think that you're potentially restarting some of your skills. You're kind of starting fresh. Now, I do think that there's one really big transferable skill. There's probably several, but I think this one's really big. If you know how to litigate, and by that I mean like take a case and really dig into it, conduct discovery like we talked about, and do it really, really well in an expert way, and then you know how to put on a case in court at trial or an evidentiary hearing. You know how to put on witnesses. You know how to get the testimony you want from witnesses, even when they're hostile towards you. Those skills, I think, really make a good trial attorney. And I think if you're a good trial attorney or a good litigator, you're going to be able to transfer that skill into any other practice area that litigates. You will just have to learn all of their laws again, though. So you will start
Okay.
from square one to some degree. But then once you learn all the laws, you get a feel for how the cases are run over there, what you're looking for, and familiarize yourself with like the prior decisions of the court, whatever court level it may be, whether it's district, circuit, appellate, Supreme Court, or whatever. You get familiar with those things. You can take that same case to trial. You know how to be a trial lawyer, so they don't have to teach you that. So you can do that. But again, I think attorneys that do that, in my experience, the ones that I know and everything, that in hot practice areas, they just never get really good in one thing.
Got you.
So,
Well, that's going to be actually a flag, like, well, even maybe for the people, like, they're looking for an attorney. I go, maybe the law firm can specialize in all sorts of stuff. I get that. Like, you could have a lot of attorneys at a firm, but for one specific attorney, if you want, let's say, a traffic, law attorney or something, make sure he doesn't have like basically 10 other practices that he does potentially.
no, that's actually a really good
Yeah.
observation. That's a really good observation. Yeah, I mean, if it's a solo practitioner, for example, and they have 10 practice areas,
You know, what the heck?
they might just be built different. I
Okay.
don't know.
Okay.
They
Okay.
might just be built different, but my guess would be that'd be less than 1% of the attorneys
Yeah.
that are built different, that do everything.
Yeah.
That's
I
facts.
think if you find one guy that does one thing, and even if they're by themselves, you can be like, okay, this guy's probably good. He only does this one thing,
Yeah.
No,
Specializes.
100% agree. I mean, me as a person doing like a skilled job, same thing. I mean, I offer a variety of services, but I'm not the best at all of them. I'm just really good, I would say, at all of them. Versus if you go to someone that only does one of the services that I do, 100%, he's going to be able to do it twice as fast as I can. And probably because he's been doing it every single day, the exact same thing. So I 100% think that's actually really accurate with what you're saying.
Okay.
That makes sense. That is like a transferable across all industries thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little rule of the world, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can. Let's pivot back to sort of like the marriage sort of thing. So yeah, I'll let you take a sip of your water. So I don't want to dehydrate you.
Okay.
But yeah, I was just gonna dive more into when you start seeing people file for divorce. You know, they consult with you. I'm pretty sure probably see a lot of the background sort of stuff, like behind the scenes sort of stuff. So with that being said, maybe what are some of the most common causes why someone would want to get divorced? I have guesses. I've heard that it's, the root cause is finance, and then that maybe translates into infidelity later on and all this other trouble stuff. But yeah, I would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. It's like a big topic across social media now, right? Like
Yeah.
you see all these viral videos showing you. And honestly, this might not be the best answer. I'll walk through a few of them, but I honestly think it's a mix of a lot of those things.
Okay.
So when you walk through it, like if I were to just pick, it's so hard to pick a number one thing, but I definitely think finances has to be up there top three.
Okay.
And the reason for that is there's many reasons, but people just have certain expectations when they get into marriages. They might get married at 20, 25, 30, and they're like, oh, we have a lot of time to build our careers. We have a lot of time. Maybe the one person's relying on the other person. They're like, oh, well, they have a good education. They have a high ceiling. They'll get there one day. So maybe we'll live in that big house with the luxury cars, be able to take our family on vacations, do whatever we want. And then they get there 20 years later, and maybe it didn't go the way that they thought it would go. And now they start to resent that person.
Oh, wow.
And these are things that are not really talked about. I guess I wouldn't know because I don't meet
Yeah.
with people when they're first getting married.
Yeah.
But my guess would be they don't discuss these expectations ahead of time. Like, hey, you're going to be okay with if I work hard but don't make it there? You know what I mean? I mean, that's a tough question
That's
to
wild.
ask.
Yeah.
But are you going to be okay with that? What if we're in this exact same position? I lose everything because I risk it all and I lose everything 20 years down the road. Are you going to be ready to start with me from this position right now?
That's a powerful question.
So it's a tough question. And if they're a ride or die, they're going to say, absolutely, I don't care. You know what I mean? And then another one of those things is, I think one of the most common reasons for divorce has to be like the environments that each party is in. I think that in our current world, without going into too much detail, people are around a ton of temptation.
Yeah.
Whether it's at home and you have devices and you're tempted to do certain things with those, or you're going out to certain establishments every single weekend, maybe without your partner, or maybe your work environment is a little too relaxed.
Yep.
A ton of infidelity starts in the workplace. That is, I think it's true.
Yeah.
But I think a combination of all those things, along with we have these beautiful devices that do a lot for us, but it has opened the dating pool to just be global now.
Yeah.
And so there are so many things where people's expectations aren't met, and the person's like, well, I can see thousands of people online that are where I want to be, or who I wanted to be with that you didn't turn out to be. And I'm like, I want to pursue them.
Dang.
And so it's like, I want to try to see what that was like, what that would have been like. And then when they realize, yeah, there might be a chance that you might be able to jump over to them and maybe date them, marry them instead, they start to, number one, maybe sabotage the relationship if they're not the ones that want to end it. Maybe they start doing things to kind of pressure the other person to leave so that they're not the bad guy or whatever. Number two, they don't want to leave the comfort of their current relationship, but they want, what do people say? Have their cake and eat it too?
Yeah.
They want everything. They're like, let me go enjoy that lifestyle and go on trips and tell this person it's something else, but it's actually something completely different. And then I want the comfort of my home still. I want the comfort of being taken care of. I want to be provided for, or I just want to see this person every day because I still do love them. I don't hate them, but I'm just disappointed and I resent them. Like, there's just a whole world of possibilities out there. I definitely think infidelity stems from other things. I don't think most of the time, I'm sure there's some times where everything's perfect and someone just slips up. But I think most of the times it stems from something else. And my number one guess is respect and love. Obviously, those two things are very important. But if one person stops respecting the other one, viewing them in a lesser light, and or starts resenting them, they don't think that they're the best they could be. And like we said, they don't get to a position where they were expected to be. They're not respected as much. If they don't uphold boundaries, this is one of the biggest things, actually. Now that I just stumbled into that, people always set boundaries early on, or they set boundaries throughout their relationship. And what ends up happening is they love this person and they feel comfortable with them. So they'll just slowly let certain boundaries go when they're crossed. Whatever. I don't want to get into an argument tonight. I just worked 10 hours. You broke 2 boundaries today. Whatever. We'll just deal with it next time. But that boundary is going to keep getting broken. And it might not be evil from the other person. It might not be intentional. But the thing is, the more you let someone kind of walk all over you, even in small ways, that death by 1,000 paper cuts is 100% real. It's going to happen. They might not mean to hurt you over time. They might not mean to blow things up. But that in itself is going to compound like a snowball, and it will blow things up eventually. So pretty much all the things we see online have some truth to them.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, it's such a complex world now, because back in the day we wouldn't have like social media and like all these other things going on,
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks nowadays to be like, oh, let me just go on social media and, oh, I don't have the dream house I want, or, oh, I could be in, what are people going nowadays? Turks and Caicos with all these girls allegedly, and et cetera. So
Yeah,
it's crazy.
it's
You're
wild.
right.
Yeah, I think about this all the time, like probably on a daily basis. Like, just think about like maybe 1950s or something.
Yeah.
You're in a small town, you fall in love with someone, you get married, and there's like, I don't know, 200 people, 500 people, 5,000 people, I don't know, but you're in a small town, you're in kind of a closed bubble.
Yeah.
And you're happy with your life. Everyone's houses probably look around the same.
Yep.
And you all have good jobs. You can live on one income. The expectations are pretty similar.
Yep.
You can all buy whatever the items are that are kind of hot at that time, or most of you can buy those, and you're not able to, have your husband or wife be reached out to by people in Dubai, right, or wherever, and show them this thing that they could be experiencing. They have no idea that exists.
Yeah.
And sometimes ignorance is really bliss. Like, it's, if you don't know something's out there, whether it's evil or it just might not be that good for you, it's actually good for you to just not know about it sometimes.
Yeah, maybe it's just temptation.
Yeah. I mean, we're just imperfect as humans. Like, even the most like the most caring people, the most careful people can slip up. And that's why I feel like you have to have boundaries. You have to stay away from temptation. I mean, I'm a pretty religious guy, and I think that the religions put a lot of rules in place for very good reasons. But even if you're not religious, like, we have modern moral rules that kind of everyone follows. People bend those rules all the time. But I think if you really follow those, even, like, you stay in a pretty good position.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's facts. Having like a sort of a guiding principle or principles for you. So I like this. Something you could come back to when you're being tempted, or there's, you're in troubled times, or it's a difficult time with the relationship. That's probably the time where temptation seems the best, when shit's not going right. So it's like,
yeah. Do you usually see it from males or females coming, like, would you say, I guess you'd say, slipping up, or the one
who's a perpetrator?
Yeah.
Like physical cheating? Or
yeah.
emotional?
I mean, I guess just emotional. Let's say no one's cheating. They're just not, they're seeing like the opportunity. Like the girl's like, oh man, I'm married to this loser. It's been 10 years, like you said, and his business didn't take off. And this guy's over here living in this mansion with these Ferraris, and I want to be,
Yeah, I've heard that the woman initiates the divorce most of the time, but you can correct if we're wrong.
I haven't gone back and like counted the amount of times someone files for divorce. I think it usually is. I think that statistics, like, the number floated around is like 75% women initiate or something along those lines, 80 or whatever. I think that might be true. I just haven't really paid attention to it to actually understand.
Gotcha.
But to get to your question, I mean, some people might not like my answer, but from what I see, it's mostly women that usually get those opportunities. And my theory on that, it's not some like sexist theory. It's not like, I'm not saying women are worse people or anything along those lines. Women have more opportunities when it comes to being pursued by the other sex or gender or whatever you want to call it, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas like men, most of the times, a lot of guys, they go around their daily lives, whether they're a mailman or, plumber or whatever they are, they're kind of invisible to some people. They do their job. They're very essential for society, but they're not getting these. I mean, a big burly guy with a big beard's not getting a DM from a prince in Dubai saying, "Let me fly you out next month. Let's hang out at the pool. Let's party. Let's do all this stuff." No, but a beautiful girl who, is posting herself up online and it's a public account or whatever it may be. Yeah. There's going to be more people attracted to that woman, and generally speaking. This might be a little more even these days, but generally speaking, men are the ones that pursue. And so most of the times men are pursuing the women. Yeah. And so I think that's why. I don't think like women are bad people, but I think that I think the more attention and opportunity and temptation that comes your way, the more likely you are to slip up. I think if men were in the same position as women, or like the beautiful woman I just talked about, like theoretically posting stuff online and gets DMs from a bunch of people, if men were in that position, I think men would slip up the same exact way. Yeah, we're just not,
Yeah.
That's the dynamic we're in. Okay. All right. Dang, bro. All right. So, well, this is the thing. You probably only see like the bad side of marriage, right? Yeah. Do you have sort of maybe examples in your personal life? You're like, yo, that's a good marriage, and that's sort of what I want to follow. Like, and if so, what are maybe some things that you're like focusing on?
Yeah. I definitely mostly see the worst in people. But there are times, I'll start with this too. There are times where people come to me and they're kind of on the verge of reconciliation. They're thinking, we might be able to fix this, but I don't know. Can you just tell me what would happen if we got a divorce? We argue too much or something along those lines. And, I'll ask them. I'm not afraid to turn away or potentially lose business by saying, have you tried reconciling? Have you tried going to a marriage counselor? Do you two go to church or a mosque or a temple or anything like that? And if they say yes, I'm like, do you have someone that you mutually respect that you can sit down with and have a conversation about your marriage? And when you get people thinking like that, you'll be surprised how many people stay in their marriage. I personally helped, I think maybe 2 or 3. It's not very many, but it works sometimes. And I'm like, if you can save one family from splitting up, I feel like that's
real. Bro.
It feels good. It feels good. Sure. It's a good impact.
It says a lot about you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that.
You're not being like, hey, let's just settle this right now. We got a good case right here.
Sign right here.
That part's true, but I also help people wage war against each other. So I'm like, in my head, I'm a little conflicted. I try that out, but then aside from seeing mostly bad, there's definitely people in my life. I have some mentors that are in excellent relationships. I have some family members that are in excellent relationships. I think some of the most important things that they do are probably just really treating each other with a lot of respect and having each other's back. Like specifically some of the really long lasting older people that I'm thinking of, if one person's disrespected even by a family member, the other person says, hey, I know you're my brother, or I know you're my uncle or whatever, but you're not going to disrespect my spouse. I love you, I really do, and I love her or him or whatever it is, but you're not going to disrespect my spouse. And I think that really molds people together, that kind of backup, even when you're facing your own family member, because this person, no matter how long you're married to them, if you're with your family, they may be very close to your family, they might have a great relationship, but at the end of the day, they do have this slight feeling of being an outsider, right? Because it's not their family they grew up with. And maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but they might have this feeling, if things ever got heated and people were in an argument, that they might feel like an outsider being kind of attacked or casted out or something. If you have their back, I think that builds a ton of trust. I've seen that happen in many like family, friends kind of relationships. Another thing is, I think that the most important thing, and this is kind of vague, but I think it's so true, I think that your strengths need to complement the other person's weaknesses. So if you guys are both on the same level, I think there's going to be a lot of issues. And I could be totally wrong. This is totally anecdotal. But I think if you're both just like, and this works for some people, so that's why I'm kind of saying like it's anecdotal. But in my personal experience, if you're both go-getters and you have the same dreams but on separate paths, you're like, hey, I'm going to pursue this business this way and I'm going to kill it. And maybe you will. And this person's like, maybe I'm going to pursue this career and I'm going to absolutely crush it in this career, but you're going separate ways. You're not going together, or you're not complementing one another's weaknesses. I think it automatically pulls you apart. It does, because at the end of the day, I think you look for people who can fill the gaps that you can't fill in your life. And when you get pulled apart by different goals and you go really far apart, I think you find other people that satisfy those things.
Dang.
And then your person doesn't. That's my opinion.
Okay, yeah.
So I think if I, for example, like if you were a go-getter and you're really thinking like, I'm going to go for it all in my lifetime, I'm going to work 20 hours a day until I become the best in my industry. And you might need a support. You might need a support on things that you are not good with. You might want kids at the same time that you do that. You might want to, have other kind of moral support when you come home, or you might want to be able to spend some time on the weekends and unplug from that kind of fast-paced life. And you want someone that has a little bit of a slower pace mindset that can calm you down and ground you. You might benefit from having someone that's a little bit of an opposite. And that's just my opinion.
No, I like that. Like yin and yang. Like the balance. Yeah. I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Alrighty.
Obviously, doing all this, I mean, has this changed like your view on marriage now? Like that you've been like, you've seen it all? Like, in a way?
I try not to let it get to me. So like whenever someone, contacts me with a question, like they're getting married, like some of my friends from college, they'll contact me sometimes. Hey, I'm getting married. Like, should I maybe pursue a prenup, or should I do something before getting married or whatnot? Or, hey, I'm getting married. And I'm like, hey, sometimes I'll say, you want to talk about it a little bit before you do that? Especially some of these successful people. I'm like, they're young, they're already successful. Maybe they already have a business. Maybe they have a huge stockpile of money. Maybe they have real estate already. Like I know some friends that I graduated with, they already have like multiple properties and things like that. Sometimes I'll suggest like, hey, I'm not going to be pushy, but do you want to talk about this just for a few minutes? I just want to like tell you what I'm thinking. I think all my friends respect my opinion and everything, but I think automatically they do kind of assume like, oh, I know what you're going to say, man. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, don't get married. You're going to say, sign a prenup. You're going to say, protect yourself, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I think that I try to keep that stuff at bay a little bit. So it's definitely, we're human, right? Like it's definitely impacted my mindset about how marriages are, what I think about them. I don't think it's impacted it too negatively, because I try to keep that at bay, and I try to think about it in the sense of, look, we have this problem, and we can just call all of our problems one problem for just a moment. We have this problem here, but we have this thing that's very important. So what do we do about it? Do we just abandon the thing that's important and just say, screw it, we're never going to do it? That's not my opinion at all. I think marriage is super important. I think we have to put things in place to deal with these modern problems that have never existed before, and those solutions are going to look very different because we've never had to implement them before. So I think my opinion is, yes, of course, I'm human, and it's definitely taken me to a little bit of maybe a more negative light than I would have if I was never in divorce law. But I also think that, and this is another personal opinion of mine, I just think I have a good ability to set things in place to prevent a lot of those terrible outcomes.
Yeah.
At least I think that. We'll test
No.
that theory at some point. But
Okay.
yeah.
No, that's real.
That can be tough because I feel like you knowing everything right and you've been through a lot. I feel like you might want to, put your 2 cents into like a lot of things in a relationship, which obviously a lot of that can be controlling too, and it can obviously conflict the relationship. But
Yeah.
it's got to be a little bit challenging, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be for sure. Yeah. I always try to, before I tell my friends or anyone that I want to talk about things with them before they get married, I always try to say, like, I'm not going to give you any kind of negative influence. That's not my goal at all. And funny enough, I actually say this quite often too, where I'm like, I hope one day the world heals so much, and I hope it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
If I had a genie in front of me, I'd be like, okay, let's heal the world, end divorces, keep families together. I will move to a different practice area. A little bit like how I covered earlier. I have skills in the courtroom. I have skills I can transfer to any other practice area that litigates. I would be thrilled if divorce rates got so low I never had to deal with them anymore. Maybe I got one or two here and there that were more extreme cases. I would love to deal with those and help people get to safety or whatnot. But other than that, I would be so happy if my career just, my career field just got so small with business that I was like, okay, let me go do something else, personal injury or whatever it may be, general civil practice. So I try to preface everything with that. I just say, hey, if there's something in place, like maybe just like going back to the prenup, that lessens your chance of you divorced by potentially a ton. Why not do it? Maybe that's one of the first steps we can take towards having successful marriages is get rid of some of the future conflict or potential conflict or unfair things that go down later right off the jump, and maybe it incentivizes people less to leave and work things out.
Got you. Okay.
So,
No, I like that. Hopefully, it becomes true, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
I feel like you could almost be a marriage counselor too, man.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of are, like just inadvertently. People always talking to you,
That's
all
fair.
that.
You should like bring him in when they come in for the consult and just be like, all right, it's either going to end up one or two ways. I'm either going to be your marriage counselor or I'm going to fulfill your guys' divorce.
Yeah. No, that's funny that you mentioned that. I actually, for a little bit there, I was like, man, I want to make an impact on people's lives a little bit differently than divorce law. And for a second, I was like, should I like open up a side business that's like marriage counseling?
Oh.
But the only problem with that is if I've ever talked to both parties, I am now a conflict for the opposing party. So I wouldn't be able to take either of them as a client. I think I would dwindle my client pool down. And if clients came in and I did the marriage counseling for them, if they actually got back together, I'd be thrilled. But if they didn't, and one of them was like, no, I need you to represent me. I really want you to represent me. I'd be like, sorry,
Can't
you
now.
disclosed too many, things to me now, so I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
tough.
Yeah. And that, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask about like the divorce itself.
Yeah.
Obviously, people hit you up when it's time to get, it's time for divorce. But I was gonna ask, do people hit you up usually when it's too late? Is it sometimes premature? Like, where you at with that?
I would say, I don't know if I had to guess 50-50.
Oh, okay.
Maybe 50% hit me up at a good time where I'm like, okay, let's really take a look at this and see what you need and how we should pursue this. The other 50% maybe come to me when it's like way too late. Like they've already been served. They have 21 days to respond. And they come to me on like, I don't know, day 20 and or day 15. Maybe that was a little extreme with the day 20, but like halfway through that, right? And if I have trial this week or next week, now I have to scramble to try to get their documents ready, get their disclosures ready, and get those things filed. So I would say half and half. And the problem with the too late aspect of it is there might have been steps they could have taken to protect themselves a little bit more, whether it's financially or custody wise, that they sometimes miss out on because they just take unilateral actions without consulting with anyone. I mean, I can think of two things where, let's just say a father, right? Like they're married, they're living with the kids in the marital home. Things start to break down, and the father, let's just say, because I'll be real, most of the times it is the father that just leaves the home.
Okay.
So let's just say the father's like, I don't like living here anymore. Things are tense. Maybe one of them cheated or something like that or whatever. Father dips, right? And then he comes back to me way later, months down the road, and he's like, let's file for divorce, or we're responding to a divorce that was served onto him, and he's been out of the house for 6 months.
Uh-huh.
He has not been with the kids every day for 6 months. He has not cooked or cleaned for the kids in 6 months. He hasn't taken them to school, medical appointments, all this kind of stuff. Now we're on our heels already if that father wants equal involvement in the children's lives. Because what if mom and mom's attorney had filed for temporary orders and we're getting into court in a month or two already? Like, there's already a court date. Now I'm like, dude, the track record is totally against you, man. We're going to be going in trying to argue something from the past. And I know 6 months is not that long of a time, but the courts really don't like change for kids. They like to keep kids in a stable environment, and they believe that kids thrive in those kind of structures. And I think I generally agree.
Yeah.
But I just do think how that prejudices one party a lot is kind of unfair. So I think that when people come to me in those kind of situations, it's rough. I'll do everything I can, and a lot of times we can do something about it, like really get a lot of evidence from the marriage and from the recent past and everything to help their case. But they definitely didn't help their case with their actions, And sometimes I have current clients that, I'll have a client and they don't consult me and they just go ahead and do something, and I'm like, why did you even hire me? Because you just screwed up a component of your case. So yeah, I think the best thing to do is, and this sounds so horrible, but if your relationship isn't going well or anything like that, go consult with an attorney really early. Maybe don't hire one unless you're really planning, like, oh, it's going to happen for sure.
Gotcha.
Then maybe hire one and start planning for one, because you're just going to be in a better position. It's going to be more expensive, but it'll definitely be worth it if it's a good attorney. But yeah, it never hurts to go to a consult, because you might go to a consult with someone like me, and then I'm like, okay, what are your issues in your marriage? And you're like, well, I'm bored.
Dang, okay.
Or something along those lines. And I'm like, do you really want to spend all this money, tear your family up on that? Or do you want to try to do something else about it? And they might go back and do something about it and fix their marriage. On the flip side, if they're a victim of domestic violence or something, right? They come to me and I'm like,
get out.
Okay, don't tell anyone that you came to see me, that you're going to hire me, but I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take steps to protect you, your interest in the marital estate, but your physical health, safety is the most important.
Yeah. Okay. And then Edgar, think you had a question, brother?
I kind of answered it myself when his last thing was, I was like, I take it you can't represent both parties, right? It's either one or the other.
Yeah. And if it's discovered even like late in the process, you can be disqualified. So you really got to make sure that you do a conflict check early on. If you're at a good firm, usually the intake staff will do all the conflict checks for you to make sure there wasn't like a aunt, uncle, sibling or something that, there's some sort of conflict there or whatever the case may be. Then when you get a fresh client like that, then you're good. But if conflicts can be really serious, I mean, you can get in some trouble as an attorney too if you're taking like conflicted cases and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a time you ever had to like fire a client, or even just say, "Nah, I'm not doing this"?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it'd be kind of funny if they watch this ever. So I won't get into specifics, But yeah, there's been. This is one that keeps popping up in front of me. There's several others, but yeah, I have. I mean, if a client loses basic respect for me, or they don't trust my strategy, then I'm like, why do you have me? And I don't mean that to be like offensive, but it really is one of those things. Is you hire an attorney for strategy and to represent you in court and to do all the background work to make sure you're in compliance with the law and the civil procedure and everything like that. And if you don't trust your attorney, you're like, no, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And then your attorney, like for example, you have some sort of tragedy happen in your family, or you have something, you get really sick or something, right? And there's a hearing tomorrow, I can't make it, or there's a mediation. I'm like, no, I'm literally like, either on the bed or in another state because someone passed or someone's sick or whatever it may be. And the client just, if they're not compassionate about that yes, I'm a human too. And the courts won't care, by the way. The courts, the mediators, they're instantly like, don't worry about it, we'll reschedule it right now. Anytime an attorney has like an emergency or anything like that. But if the client's rude to you, it's a huge red flag, because then I'm like, if you're rude to me in the maybe the worst time of my life or one of the worst times of my life, then what's going to happen if we don't get exactly what you want down the road? I mean, are you going to react worse than that too? Because I can't guarantee an outcome. I can do everything I possibly can for you, but if the judge rules a certain way, he's going to rule a certain way. And so I can't have people disrespecting me or other attorneys or even my staff. I mean, I fired a client before because they disrespected my staff. I was gone and they disrespected, the paralegals that were working on my case. I'm like, no, no, no. We're on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
I called the client, right? And they're fully respectful towards me, but I know what happened before then. And so I'm like, you can't disrespect the team either because they're very valuable members of the team. I would say in some cases, paralegals are even more important than attorneys.
Dang, okay.
If you have like a solid paralegal staff, they're going to keep the attorney in line and just running smooth and perfect. And your case is going to be perfectly meeting all the deadlines and everything like that. And they'll keep you on task. So like that's the importance level of your paralegal. And if they're disrespecting your paralegal, I mean, it's directly disrespecting you too, right? So yeah, that's like a boundary. When they cross that, I'll immediately fire them. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. So
that's real though.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
it's kind of tough though, because they've obviously spent some money and they have expectations and whatnot. But, at the end of the day, like, they can't treat you like you're not human just because you're doing a job for them.
Yeah.
That's at least my view on it. So,
in that case, do you get the money back, or it's just
the money that's already been spent? No. Yeah, it's already been
It's a
spent.
wash.
Yeah, it's a wash. I mean, the good thing is though, their case is to a point, wherever the point is, all the work that's been done is still valid and it's still in place. So they could theoretically just go hire another attorney and just pick up right where we left off. And they wouldn't really lose out because the work that's been done, like, it still exists. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like if he or she went and hired another attorney at the same hourly rate as me, they would end up paying the same amount just from that day moving forward, just as if they had me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah, it's kind of tough though because I care a lot about my clients, even when they're rude, because they're going through a hard time. I'm like, let me just cut them some slack.
Yeah, they might not be like that regularly.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's
Yeah.
that's some empathy. Okay,
Yeah, we try, man.
Yeah, it's tough dealing with clients, man. I get those sometimes too. I kind of see it as a challenge. Sometimes I'm like, all right, they're having a bad day. I gotta cut them some slack. But yeah, there's a time you gotta draw that line. You can't just come in here, bombarding me and telling me how to do my job. Like
You probably see that a lot.
Yeah, you're paying me to do the job, so let me do my job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
Well, with everything you've seen so far in your experience, what are your thoughts on marriage? Is it good, bad, something you'd want to maybe pursue? I know you probably see the bad side of everything.
Yeah.
So
I think overall marriage is good.
okay.
And I think we need marriage. I think if everyone stopped getting married, let's say, with a snap of a finger, everyone's not married anymore, there's going to be a lot more hedonism. There's going to be a lot more of the bad medical side of things too, right? If everyone's just intermingling all over the world. So aside from the medical stuff, though, there's an emotional aspect, there's a mental aspect that if you're not within the confines of some sort of structured relationship, you're probably going to struggle. The other person will probably struggle too, because there's obviously a mental impact on, the more things like that you do. And then you won't have like one set support structure. I think it's really important to have that, someone to share life with, because your parents are not going to be there forever.
Yeah.
Obviously, your spouse might not be there forever, but the idea is that you marry someone similar in age and then you're there together for a long time. And I also think that if you're going to have children, some people might not like this answer, but I think it's really important for kids to be raised with two parents. The statistics just show it. Whenever you get to single parent households, the statistics of children going to jail and, getting arrested later and becoming, drug addicts or whatever. I'm just making stuff up now, but you get the idea that two-parent households just have way better stats on that kind of stuff. So I think the stats show us that it's really important even from that aspect of things. I just think people got to do it right. Like, modern times require modern solutions, or whoever said that, I don't know, someone said it right at first. Whoever's quote that is, I think it's really true that you have to adapt to modern problems with modern solutions and keep an open mind. I don't think that people should be thinking 2026 in some aspects and then thinking 1950s when they're thinking about, I am not signing a prenup. This is a 1950.
Yeah.
Right? Let's think
Different
about
times.
today. Yeah. So overall positive. Yeah.
Okay. No, beautiful. Yeah, it's good to hear, even just from your experience, and like you literally see the worst. So for you to say, hey, I think it's necessary in society, I like that.
It's good.
Yeah. So
Lead our kids by example, right?
Yeah.
Kind of show them what it would be, what they should go for, I guess you would say.
100%.
Yeah.
What about you guys after listening to me? If you don't mind me asking you, what do you guys think about marriage? Before we talked, not saying this had a huge impact on what you
Hmm.
think, but before we talked, or just like maybe 10 years ago versus today?
Yeah, I'll let it go first.
I think it's very important. I mean, I was, blessed to be in a family where, I had both parents to this day. They're married and happily married. And I feel like it's played a huge role in my life, as far as not comparing to other people that I know, but just from going to school with friends and stuff that have gone through more things than I have.
Mhm.
It's usually they've been, in broken households with
Yeah.
divorce or abusive, relationships there with their parents or vice versa. But yeah, I think it's very important. I mean, it's something that I've always planned for in the future, with my spouse to get married and kind of, lead by example for my kids. And this is how we should do it, just how my parents kind of taught me. And yeah, I feel like it's huge.
No, agreed. Yeah, even just culturally, I'm pretty sure you're cultural as well. Like it's really family oriented. So
Yeah.
you can't really have a family if it's just one, one individual raising the family, in my opinion, at least, So yeah, I'd say it's super important. But I think what changed my mind the most is honestly like the sort of the prenup and sort of the negative stigma behind what that is. To
Hmm.
me, it sounds like more of a protection. It's on our terms. And what you mentioned, where a lot of people actually don't file for divorce if they have the prenup, I think personally that's a plus. So I think if anything, it maybe brings up conversations that you should have before you even get married. It kind of forces you to have those conversations. So yeah, I think it's all around good. I feel like it should definitely be something you consider, not definitely not impulsive. So with that being said, what are maybe some reasons you should get married and maybe some reasons you shouldn't get married?
It's a funny topic. Let me think about that. Let's see. Should get married. And this is just my own bias.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
if you want children, I think you should get married.
Okay.
But I think that should not be. I think marriage should not be like something that's a band-aid to fix problems from before. I see that happen a lot where when
Yeah.
people come in for a divorce, and I'm trying to grasp how they got into this relationship, when it was a good for a while and then it dropped off, like how did this all go down? And a lot of times what people say is right before they get married, like one person or both have like cheated already on each other.
Mm,
They might have already had a child together. They're trying to make it work, but they've already messed up in so many levels. And they get married thinking that's going to fix some of those
yeah.
problems rather than actually trying to fix those problems. And it
Mm,
blows my mind because I'm like, didn't you think maybe fixing the problem first, just seeing if it could be fixed? Like,
Hmm.
just wait a little while and just see how your mind is about it. Do you resent the person a year or two later, a couple years later? Like, there's no rush. You're still together, right?
yeah.
But people just jump into it because they're like, oh, it'll fix the relationship or whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, and it doesn't. And then kids, I think it's important if you want kids that you should consider marriage. It doesn't have to be through the state necessarily. You can get a religious marriage. I'm not an expert on that,
Hmm.
but I just think that if you care about the bond, the holy matrimony, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
do it through your church, temple, your mosque, whatever you want to do, and take it the same way that you would a regular marriage. Like if you're afraid of signing that contract with the government, or you don't even want to deal with the possibility of a prenup getting tossed out, or just modern day problems, or getting divorce attorneys involved, but you two just want to be together. Isn't that like the same thing? I mean, all you're taking out is the government contract. You can live together, live as if you're married. Now, in some states, there's common law marriage. You just have to
Okay.
be cautious about that because if 5, 7, 10 years later you're married, technically under the eyes of the law, and you don't have a prenup, that could be potentially detrimental if you don't have the right partner. But I think there's a lot of good reasons to get married as long as it's not a band-aid to fix other issues. Now, I think I think a bad reason to get married, being in Utah, let me just make it a little
Yeah,
specific.
let's be specific. Let's do it.
Some people I've heard, and I don't know this because I haven't dealt with a divorce between like 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds or whatever, but I've heard that some people get married just to get intimate
Hmm.
with someone
Okay.
quickly.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
that might not be the best reason. If your reason
Yeah.
is I want to build a life with this person, have children with this person, and also be intimate with someone,
Yeah, yeah,
fine.
yeah.
That's perfectly fine. But if it's like for something that narrow and maybe shallow,
Hmm.
don't get married, yeah, I think some people also fold to the pressure of the other person. So, I've seen sometimes where someone's like, I don't want to get married, but the other person's like, well, if we don't get married by this date, I'm leaving you. If you think about it, right, in the sense of like the prenup talk we had earlier,
Yeah.
isn't that duress? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're losing everything that you have built with that person or whatever. Under duress, you're saying, okay, we'll get married. I'll buy the ring. I'll do this, whatever. I'll do what I have to.
Uh-huh.
That is not a good foundation for a
No.
relationship. But I see it happen a
Yeah.
lot, actually, because people will say, well, my family thinks this, or my family's pressuring me, or I don't know, my belief is that I want to be married before 35 or 25 or 28 or whatever it may be. And they're just kind of getting pressured because they're afraid to lose the person. I think that's a pretty bad reason to get married. Those are just some random things that came to my mind. I'm sure there's plenty of other
Yeah.
reasons to get married or not get
No,
married.
I like that. I
But
feel like we could kind of maybe generalize it a little bit. It's if there's sort of pressure to do it, then maybe it's not the best. It should come from you internally, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right? It's like, hey, I love you. I want to spend. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. And if the foundation's messed up, then that's
yeah,
can't fix that.
Yeah.
Can't build on top of that.
yeah. And honestly, I just as a closing thing to that part, like
Mhm.
I think I've known people personally, whether it's friends or whoever, mentors or someone I've known or whatnot, that have been in better relationships than married people for long periods of time. Like I'm talking like 10, 20 years. I've known people that have been together, living together, have kids together, share assets and everything. Although I don't think that's smart without some sort of agreement. But I've seen those kind of people have healthier relationships than a lot of married people. Because a lot of married people, like, have you guys heard the terms like it's cheaper to keep her, or like
Yeah.
maybe the flip side of it, or whatever it may be? I'm trapped because I don't have money for a divorce, or they won't agree to one, or whatever the case is, right? It's just crazy to think that some people stay in relationships because they feel trapped or for other reasons. Whereas
Yeah.
I think, my guess would be that some of those people that are not married, that are in such strong relationships, they're literally running on their faith within one another. And not even like in a religious sense, right?
Yeah.
Just trust in one another. We're not going anywhere. We're here for each other forever. We've agreed to that. We've talked about it. We don't need any kind of paper telling us what to do. We're going to be together. We're going to be there for each other, etc. That's a very intentional decision. Now, when you get into a marriage, you have so many people that are miserable, that don't hang out together. They do everything separately. They don't cook for one another out of, just the love of their heart or whatever it may be. They don't massage each other, like just simple things you do to someone that you love.
Mhm.
They don't do that, but they're like, well, if I get divorced, I'm going to have to sell the house. I'm going to have to split my retirement I worked so hard for. I'm just going to stay and I'm just going to go do whatever I want and just stay in this thing and cohabit with this person.
That's wild.
So I just feel like it's not an indicator of like whether your relationship is going well.
Mhm.
I see so many people get married that, I'm not trying to out people, but this is like
Mhm.
people I kind of know from like
Yeah.
Michigan or whatever, but people get married. They don't have the foundation we talked about. They either rush into it or they feel like they're getting too old. Like some of them are, in their 30s and like, oh, let me just get married real quick. And you see them like date someone for like 1 month and they get married. And I'm like,
Wow.
or, they didn't even know each other. They date for a short period of time, get married very quickly, buy a house very quickly. And then sometimes it falls apart quickly too.
Mhm.
And I'm just thinking, I'm like, number one, that was not enough time to get to know the person. These days, you really have to vet people
Yeah.
because people put on all sorts of fronts. You have no way to verify whether they're telling the truth or not. I mean, like someone could have just moved here from overseas. Do you have any idea what they did overseas? Whether they were criminals, whether they were whatever, you have no idea because they could just be putting on a complete new face. But I think over the span of years, things come out. If you're already married, you're already kind of locked in to a certain degree.
Dang.
You kind of brought up a question for me. 'Cause you said like you've known people that have been together just for 10 years, 5 years, whatever. They've been super happy, happier than some marriages, right? In that case, if those people were to split up and they have a lot of assets together and stuff, what is there even nothing for that? Is that kind of just like, do you even go to court for that, or is that something you just kind of, as a couple, figure out on your own? And if it gets hairy, then bring in a.
It's a good question. Uh, I think to a certain degree, I am not an expert in this. I don't think I've ever done anything like this, but my guess is that if your names are on certain things, or there's like some sort of traceable evidence that, maybe text messages, emails, and then also like a bank statement showing they like, went 50-50 on a car or something like that. And it's like, hey, this is both of ours, but your name's on it. I think it's still all probably default to being a civil issue. So you'd probably hire an attorney on like some sort of contractual claims. But I think if you just want to be fair, you do things yourself, that's fine. I think it would be, you could put both your names on something that you guys already think is going to be shared by you equally or whatever. You're not worried about it. You can also put in place like any kind of contract. Just go to a contract lawyer and you could do basically a prenup without getting married and have a contract in place just going over all those same things. Now, if you have a child, that automatically becomes a family law issue because now you would be going forward with like a paternity and custody and support action. So none of your assets would be dealt with there, but like child support, health care of the child and extracurricular activities and all those kind of expenses of the child, and then custody.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think most of those would be civil issues, and if you had a contract in place and you didn't enforce it, still a civil issue. But yeah, I think that's what it would be. Maybe if a civil attorney watches this and they think I'm wrong, they can comment.
Yeah.
They got a call now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with the happy couples you have come across, have you noticed maybe like a certain trend that, the unhappy sort of marriages don't sort of do? So maybe it's a system, maybe it's a certain habit, maybe it's, I don't know, a ritual, like anything you can maybe.
That's a really good question, because I think I was about to answer, I was about to say something along these lines earlier and I forgot. So
let's go.
I think that the most important thing that I've seen in successful couples that I have not seen in the divorce cases, it's actually a comparison I just made and just realized that makes a lot of sense, is that the best couples I've seen, they usually have one leader. One general leader, not saying a dictator. They're not just saying we're doing my way or the highway, but one general leader that makes the final say and or guides the relationship, and the other person really respects them. And sometimes if they disagree with them, they still kind of trust that they are guiding them in the right direction. It's a very complicated position to be in, though, because if you start making bad decisions that backfire on your family or your spouse, the trust is going to start to creep away. So if you can maintain that trust and make very sound decisions, very, very decisive moves throughout life with that person, they're going to trust you more and more and more. At the end of the day, if you can look each other in the eyes and say, have I ever led you astray? And they say, no, they're going to follow your lead. And you're probably going to make good decisions because you haven't messed up most of the times in the past. So I think that's my number one thing, because if you have one leader, you defer to their decisions and they don't make bad decisions over time. I think that builds a ton of trust. It guides the relationship in a certain way. You're not butting heads as much because you defer maybe certain things that aren't as important to argue about to their authority. You know what I mean? Just let them handle it. And it just prevents have you guys ever heard of the arguments between, like, okay, if there was 10 gods, right, and they all had equal authority, 10%, 10% decision making.
Okay.
This world would not exist because the whole galaxy and everything would have been blown apart because they'd be fighting all the time. Like, no, I vote my 10% this way, I vote my 10% this way, blah, blah, blah. If there was two gods and they had 50-50, it'd probably be the same thing, if they had different ideologies. So it's okay to have differences and whatnot and talk about them, but if you talk about them in a mature way and handle them and always take their opinions into consideration, because they're super important. But at the end of the day, like, if one person has the courage to say, look, I understand you feel this way, whatever the issue may be, but I'm telling you right now, if you trust me and let me make this decision, I think in 5 years you're going to really be happy that you let me make this decision for us. And if you start making decisions separately, we go back to that whole thing of you're growing apart. Like, hey, I'm going to do this, you can do that. I don't agree with you and I don't agree with you. No, let's make a decision. Let's do it together. Right? There's always compromise. And, like, I don't think that leader should always just say my way or the highway either. You got to really, like, step back and think, like, if you're the leader, you want to analyze things, say, hey, that person might be right this time, or this decision might be better. Because I don't think people should really view it from the light of, like, who's right or wrong. Because then you just turn it into a competition.
No, I like that.
And the leader is able to set out a framework and actually enforce it. Enforcement is the most important thing in this whole thing. Like, if you're this leader figure in the relationship and you're leading the parties to success in whatever it may be, the marriage, financially, religiously, or whatever, you have to set a framework out for your family. And if you set that framework out for your family, you can't just sit back and kick your feet up. You actually have to enforce it when people cross those boundaries. And if you don't, you start to lose ground. So I think if a leader that does all those things we talked about, sets out a framework, everyone respects their authority to a certain degree, but then at the same time they take a lot of responsibility too, not just authority, I think that the relationship can thrive. I think that other people, whether it's the children, the spouse, or whatnot, can cover all any of those weaknesses that person may have input, right? You obviously want input from all those people. I think that's one of the most important things. And the funny comparison that I made earlier that I just realized as I'm talking to you guys here is every single divorce I've ever done, 100% has not had a sure one leader to set out a framework and enforce it. And maybe I've had divorces where there was a leader in the beginning, maybe,
Okay.
and then death by 1,000 paper cuts. And at the end, there was no sure leadership at all. There's no frame. It was a Wild West. They're always arguing, throwing stuff at each other, right? Disagreeing on what the kids should do, shouldn't do, whatever. That's what I usually see. So it actually kind of blows my mind talking to you guys about this right now is that, like, I've never seen two people come in and say, oh, he's been the leader up until, like, yesterday. Now I disagree because I want half of the stuff, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen that. There's
Okay.
always been, like, a big breakdown.
Okay, well, now that's a great sort of frame of mind to have. Like, have a leader, have someone in charge, not just for their sole sort of benefit, but for the benefit of the couple. You know, sort of a unit.
Yeah, and I realize how, like, authoritarian that kind of sounds, and so I want to draw just one more comparison. Like, if it was like a company that was highly successful, there's going to be an executive at the top that makes the final say.
Yep.
But guess what? Like, the board has a ton of power, and so do all the other executives and directors, and all that stuff. They all have a say, all the way down to some of these companies. Like, even the employees have a big say.
Yeah.
So everyone has a say, but someone's got to make the final call.
Got
'Cause
you.
if you can't, and you get to a stalemate, what do you do?
Yeah.
What's the tiebreaker? You flip a coin?
It's wild. No, that's a good point. Yeah, actually comparing it to the corporation, that's just how it works, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Alrighty. All right, Mohammed. We have been here almost for 2 hours, brother. So
Time flies.
yeah, time flies
Yeah.
when you're having fun. So
By the way, you're great at podcasting, man.
Yeah.
I can see
for
you.
real?
No, you
Would
you
you
can
be
keep a
locked in?
conversation going. I mean, yeah,
flows
Yeah,
perfectly.
thanks, guys.
you're a great people person.
Yeah.
I appreciate that,
and
man.
your kind of industry, I feel like that goes really far. So
Of course. Yeah. He
Well, I
shows
really
up.
appreciate that, guys.
Yeah.
That it boosts my confidence. Maybe one day I'll have a podcast.
nah,
and
you need to,
hopefully.
talk
man.
about the law and stuff.
Yeah, if you have questions, setting one up and stuff. I mean, we can be happy to help you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about, like, equipment. I was just telling Alex earlier. I was like, I went on Amazon and bought like a $20 like a mic thing to clip on here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna try it out and see if it sounds good.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely ask you guys because your equipment is really nice and the
Oh,
setup
thank you.
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
thanks.
No. I appreciate that. So yeah, I know we come to the conclusion. So I would like to know a little bit more about like what's sort of next for you. I know you're what I've seen online from from your channels. Looks like you're sort of trying to maybe expand your reach. Like what sort of phase are you in? Your career.
Yeah. So I'm obviously still in the beginning phases. So I'm just trying to get my name out there, my message out there. I feel like I handle things differently than most other divorce attorneys. I have a unique approach to things. And so I want to reach probably more Utahns, obviously, so I can help people out. There are certain things that I'll be doing soon here, like potentially going to some organizations and speaking and maybe helping people understand what their rights are in certain situations that they may not have known before, whether it's victims of domestic violence or, just other communities that might not be aware of their rights and their interests and things like that. But I also want to just kind of get out there and just have fun. Like I just like to post videos and just talk. It's usually just my phone. I'm in my car or truck or whatever, and just talking to it and just trying to get ideas out there because I feel like I sometimes learn things as I'm talking. Like today we were talking and I was just learning things as we were talking. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I definitely want to get my reach out there. I want, obviously, if anyone needs help with these kind of cases, I'd be honored to help them. I think that giving people high-level representation is ever more important in this field, where you have a lot of people, a lot of attorneys that are not doing their best, in my opinion. They might be doing a decent job, but I think people deserve more. We're all kind of in the same like hourly rate or pay scale. I think that people deserve the best for that pay scale because it's not cheap. I also just want to provide value to people for free. Like I have a goal for the future to be highly, highly, highly successful, right? And I talked to, I think, both of you a little bit about James Sexton. Like I look up to him a lot, and he's highly successful, but he's got such a good moral compass. And I watch his videos all the time, and I'm like, I'm going to be something like that in my own way in the future. Providing value to people for free, having fun, meeting other interesting people like you two. You guys are in completely different industries. I learned so much from you just talking to you. And at the same time, just doing my thing, expanding out to a point where maybe I can take a lot more pro bono cases for free. But people can't afford representation, but they really need it. I want to be in a position to be like, I don't need money anymore. I'll keep running my caseload, or I'll reduce it, or whatever it may be. But I want to help people that really need it. Take those extreme cases that I kind of told you guys about earlier, where that pro se parties, sometimes they just lose so big and it breaks my heart. But I have to do my job.
Yeah.
And similarly, where party, maybe hires an attorney that maybe is the cheapest attorney they could find because they don't have money. And, unfortunately, what you usually get with the cheapest thing you buy is not the best, right? So I've seen, sometimes these people hire those kind of attorneys and they get terrible service. They lose. They get outcomes that are extremely unfair because they don't have good representation. And so my goal one day is to get out there, not worry about money, and people know who I am, and people know where I stand. People know where my values lie. I want to be known as an honest attorney. I don't want to ever be known as someone who does things deceitfully or anything like behind people's back or lying in court, especially, which we're not allowed to do, but some people do. I just want to have that good reputation with people where even if they've never met me, they trust me. And if they're in the worst time of their lives, they can come to me. And I pray that God gives me the ability to take a high amount of caseload pro bono someday. So that's like my end goal. It might take a while to get there because obviously I'm so early on. I got a lot of things to do in life that I have to work for now. But one day, if I'm in that position, I want to help people in that sense. But for now, providing like just some free value or guidance for people online is kind of my goal with that social media stuff.
Okay. No, beautiful. I know you'll reach your goals. So
Yeah,
it's just a matter of time, brother.
I appreciate that, guys. Do you mind if I throw my tag on here?
No, I was about to
For
ask
sure,
you that
yeah.
actually. I was like,
Okay.
is that allowed? Like,
Yeah, what's the best way to people reach you? And,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I'll put that in the description too for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so I have, let's see, Instagram is probably the first one I started, so there's more people on there. It's relentless_barrister. So relentless is relentless, and then barrister is BARRISTER. And then that's the same tag I have across TikTok, YouTube. What else do I have? I think that might be it. Facebook.
Right now? Okay.
Maybe. I don't think
Okay,
I have Facebook,
okay.
but yeah, just those three.
Go follow them. Even if you might not need them now, but you never know. And not even for the divorce. Maybe for the prenup. Maybe just for a consultation. Maybe for, just I don't know, just for other sort of reasons. Maybe just as a point of contact. For some other things. So. Yeah, it's just good to have. So
yeah,
I appreciate that, guys. Yeah. I'm also just open to talking to other interesting people. So if anyone wants to reach out, I'll respond. I don't care what part of their life they're in. If they're going to law school or they want some advice, or if they're just in a different industry and want to talk, I would love to learn more. So
no, that's
awesome.
No, that's true. That dang, Mohammad. All right, brother. You humble ass dude. Be working hard as hell. So shout out to you, bro.
Likewise, guys.
No, it's good, man. What goes around comes around, and yeah.
Awesome, but yeah, anything you feel like we might have missed or anything else you'd want to touch upon?
I think we touched on most topics, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think if we...
That's why I'm like, you ready?
I think we're good. I mean, I'm good for this one. I'm not sure. Nothing else is really popping up right now.
Yeah, and let us know if you ever have anything coming up or want to promote something. Yeah, I'm more than happy to have you on the pod, or if you just want to kick it or even just use some of the stuff. Yeah, just let us know.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, likewise.
You guys asked very good questions, and I feel like we covered everything because of those questions.
Yeah, I was trying to make it, hopefully concise, but at the same time, make it not so. Oh, let me ask you a question, answer it. Oh, let's go into the next question, answer it. So obviously flows better. So no, well, all right. Well, with that being said, guys, that was episode 150 of Landless Growth Podcast.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and with that being said, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Yeah, peace.
All right, see you guys.
See you.